Welcome to Bible Bedtime Children. The Bible story of Ruth and Boaz. Long ago, there was a woman named Naomi who lived in a land called Bethlehem with her husband and 2 sons. There was a famine in Bethlehem, which meant there was very little food for the people to eat. Naomi and her husband decided to leave Bethlehem and move to a place called Moab so they would have food. While living in Moab, Naomi's husband died. She was now a widow with 2 sons. When her sons grew up, they married women from Moab. One son married a woman named Orpah, and the other son married a woman named Ruth. 10 years after her sons married, they both died. Naomi was now a widow with no children. She was heartbroken and decided to return to her home, Bethlehem. She told Orpah and Ruth she would be leaving. Orpah and Ruth did not want to hear this. They loved Naomi and wanted to go with her. When Naomi saw they didn't want to leave her, she said to them, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? I am too old to have a husband to give you sons." Orpah listened to her mother-in-law and returned home. However, Ruth decided to stay with Naomi. "Your people shall be my people," Ruth said, "and your God shall be my God." When Naomi heard that, she took Ruth, and they both returned to Bethlehem. When Naomi reached Bethlehem, everyone was excited to see her. However, they saw she was very sad. She told them what happened to her husband and 2 sons, how they had all died. Naomi's return home was bittersweet. At this time, it was harvest season in Bethlehem, so there was much food to gather in the fields. Naomi's husband had a relative named Boaz, who owned a field. She told Ruth about Boaz, so Ruth wanted to go gather food in his field. Naomi thought this was a great idea, so Ruth went every day to Boaz's field. One day, Boaz came to the field and saw Ruth. He asked one of the servants, "Who is this young woman?" The servant answered, "This is the young woman that came back with Naomi from Moab." Ruth asked Boaz if she could remain in the field, and Boaz said yes. He told her to stay with the other young women. He also told her that he heard of her husband's death and all that she had done for Naomi. "May God help you because of the good you have done," he said to Ruth. He was very kind to her and gave her extra food, which she brought home to Naomi. When Naomi saw all the food that Ruth received, she was amazed and asked Ruth Where did she get all of this food from? Ruth told her it was from Boaz. When Naomi heard this, she told Ruth to stay in his field for the rest of the harvest. Naomi was now getting older and did not want Ruth to be alone. She had a plan to help Ruth get married. One day, she told Ruth to get dressed up and go to the field of Boaz. She was not to tell Boaz who she was, but to just lay at his feet when he fell asleep after dinner. When he wakes up and sees her there, he will tell her what to do. Ruth did all that Naomi told her. She got dressed up and went down to the field of Boaz. After he had eaten, drank, and fell asleep, she lay down at his feet. At midnight, Boaz felt something at his feet. He jumped up and saw that it was Ruth. Ruth asked Boaz to take her under his wing. Boaz said he knows someone who can take her. However, if that person couldn't do it, he would do it himself. He then gave her more barley to take home. Ruth went home and told Naomi all that happened. Naomi was pleased and told her to wait till Boaz returned. Boaz went to visit a family member to see if they would take Ruth under their wing. However, this man could not do it. Boaz then decided that he would have to take Ruth for himself. Boaz took Ruth and made her his wife. Naomi's plan worked, and now Ruth would not end up alone. Ruth later became pregnant and had a son named Obed. Obed would end up being the grandfather of a great king from God named David. The Bible story of Ruth and Boaz.